there are moments when a single confession from a mother changes everything we thought we understood. For years, the story of Abby and Brittany Hensel was wrapped in admiration, mystery, and an unspoken respect for the boundaries they carefully guarded. But according to their mother, Patty, one rumor that people whispered about in the shadows wasn't just true. It carried consequences that fractured their family in ways almost no one could imagine. And the truth she confirmed has reshaped how the world now looks at the two sisters who spent their lives trying to protect their privacy. This is the story of what was revealed and why it changed everything. The rumor that refused to die. For years, the internet had toyed with the idea that one of the Hensel twins might have gotten married in secret. It started as a small whisper online, a joke for some, an impossible scenario for others. Abby and Brittany Hensel, two distinct individuals sharing one body, had lived their entire lives pushing back against the world's assumptions about what they could and could not do. But nothing stirred more speculation, more curiosity, and more disbelief than the possibility of marriage. The internet kept asking the same invasive question: if one falls in love, what happens to the other? Rumors grew louder in 2021. There were posts, blurry screenshots, and online sightings, but no one had proof, and the family remained silent as they always had. Abby and Brittany never let strangers dictate what parts of their lives deserved to be public. But in 2024, something changed. A single photo on social media, posted casually by a man named Joshua Bowling, sent shockwaves across the internet. Joshua, a U.S. Army veteran and nurse, had uploaded a picture that the world had never seen before, a wedding photo. And he wasn't standing alone. Abby was beside him, smiling, wearing a wedding dress, while Brittany stood right next to her as she always had. It didn't take long for people to realize the truth. Abby had been married in a private ceremony back in 2021. The world demanded answers, answers the twins never wanted to give. But the person who finally confirmed the truth was someone no one expected. Their mother, Patty, revealed that the rumor the world had gossiped about for years was true. Abby had gotten married, and the secrecy surrounding it had created a storm inside the family, a storm that pushed Abby and Brittany farther from their mother than she ever expected. A mother's confession and a broken bond. When Patty finally acknowledged the truth about Abby's marriage, it was not the triumphant reveal the internet imagined. It was a confession that carried weight, regret, and a quiet admission that something within the family had fractured long before the world caught up. She explained that she had known about the marriage from the beginning. Of course, she was their mother. But the choice Abby and Brittany made to keep it completely private, even from extended family, even from certain relatives who felt entitled to know, had created tension that quietly deepened over time. And when the rumor surfaced publicly, something snapped. Patty was asked by producers, journalists, neighbors, and strangers if the story was real. For years, she deflected, denied, or said nothing. But silence has limits. Eventually, she confirmed it, not to betray her daughters, she insisted, but because she refused to lie a moment longer. The world saw this as her simply clarifying a rumor. But to Abby and Brittany, it felt like something else entirely. It felt like a boundary broken, a promise cracked open. According to those close to the family, the twins were deeply shaken by their mother's admission. It wasn't that she acknowledged the marriage the world already suspected. It was that she spoke publicly at all. Abby and Brittany had built their lives around strict privacy, controlling every detail that left their home. They had grown up under constant cameras, constant documentaries, constant invasive questions about their bodies, their future, their autonomy. As adults, they vowed never again to let someone else narrate their story. So when their mother confirmed the rumor, even in the smallest way, the twins felt exposed. And with that exposure came anger, disappointment, and a painful silence between them and Patty. People saw headlines and gossip, but behind those headlines was a mother who cried alone in her kitchen, wondering how a single sentence could push her daughters away, and two sisters who believed they had to protect their lives at any cost, even if it meant protecting them from someone they loved. The marriage that redefined their lives. To understand why Abby's marriage caused such emotional shock waves, you have to understand how the twins lived long before Joshua entered their world. Abby and Brittany had always insisted on their individuality. From childhood, they corrected anyone who tried to treat them as one person. Abby loved sparkles, bright colors, and pink. Brittany preferred hats, muted tones, and a more relaxed style. Their personalities diverged as clearly as their interests, and their parents nurtured those differences from the start. But marriage was different. Marriage was a deeply personal step, one that touched questions people had always whispered about yet never truly understood: identity, autonomy, boundaries, the meaning of partnership in a shared body. When Abby and Joshua quietly married in 2021, it wasn't done to shock anyone. It wasn't defiance. It was simply a moment they wanted for themselves, a moment of happiness that belonged to them, not to the media, not to curious strangers, not even to extended family who demanded updates like they were owed something. What many didn't realize was that Brittany supported Abby from the very beginning. She was there for every conversation, every decision, every difficult moment. And when the ceremony happened, she wasn't an observer, she was part of the moment, standing beside her sister as she had her entire life. People outside didn't understand this, but inside their world, it made perfect sense. Their relationship had always operated with mutual respect that most siblings never achieve. That didn't change because one of them got married. Joshua's presence only added another layer to their dynamic. He didn't approach them with curiosity or an obsession with their physical reality. Instead, he connected with Abby as a person, not a medical rarity. And surprisingly to many, his respect extended to Brittany as well. He understood that loving Abby meant accepting the bond that could never be separated. Instead of resisting that reality, he embraced it. Still, it was a relationship that challenged the world's expectations. People questioned everything, some out of ignorance, some out of genuine confusion, and some out of an unhealthy obsession with things that were none of their business. Abby and Brittany learned to shut out that noise, but they couldn't shut out what was happening at home. And as the pressure around the marriage grew, the silence between the twins and their mother hardened into something more painful than any rumor the internet could invent. Living under scrutiny while trying to live a normal life. Long before Abby's marriage became a public conversation, the Hensel twins had already lived 2 decades under a microscope. From the moment they appeared on national television as children, the world developed a fascination with them, sometimes warm, sometimes cruel, but always unrelenting. Their parents tried to shield them, insisting on a childhood that felt as close to ordinary as possible. They gave the girls separate outfits, separate interests, and separate identities, even though they moved through life side by side. As Abby and Brittany grew older, the world's curiosity only intensified. People stared in public, whispered behind them, or asked questions no child should have to answer. But the twins handled it with a calm resilience. They learned to walk, swim, and play sports, skills that demanded extraordinary teamwork since each sister controls one side of their shared body. While most children took coordination for granted, the twins built it through trust, compromise, and an unspoken rhythm only they understood. School wasn't any easier. Attention followed them through every hallway. Yet instead of shrinking away, they leaned into learning, figuring out how to take notes, participate in class, and succeed academically. In 2012, they earned degrees in education from Bethel University, proving once again that the limitations society projected onto them didn't define who they were. They chose teaching because they wanted to help kids understand that difference isn't frightening, it's simply a part of being human. 4th and 5th graders are naturally curious, and the twins never shamed them for asking questions. They answered what they chose to answer and kept private what they wanted to protect. Their classrooms became places where empathy grew naturally through example, not lectures. But even as teachers, the scrutiny didn't stop. Every milestone, graduation, new jobs, interviews, sparked new waves of public fascination. And when Abby married Joshua, that fascination exploded into interrogation. People demanded explanations, as if the twins owed the world a step-by-step guide to their most intimate decisions. When a TV crew member told their mother, "You owe the world more of an explanation," Brittany responded bluntly, "I don't owe the world anything." And Abby and I don't owe them anything either. It was a line drawn not out of anger, but out of exhaustion. They were done being public property, but not everyone in their life understood that boundary, and the consequences of crossing it would soon become impossible to ignore. Rare twins, medical curiosity, and the weight of being studied. To understand why Abby and Brittany guard their privacy so fiercely, it helps to understand the world they were born into, a world where rare twins, especially conjoined twins, have always been treated as medical puzzles before being seen as human beings. Long before their reality show, before their teaching careers, before Abby's marriage, the fascination with twins who defied science had existed for centuries. Doctors, researchers, and journalists often viewed cases like theirs as opportunities to study rather than people to protect. Abby and Brittany grew up aware of this reality. They knew that many of the twin stories that came before them, stories of mirror-image twins, parasitic twins, semi-identical twins, even chimeas, had been sensationalized, misunderstood, or exploited. And they understood that this same pattern could easily repeat in their own lives if they weren't careful. History is filled with examples: mirror-image twins whose bodies reflect each other like reversed photographs, parasitic twins, where one develops at the expense of the other, semi-identical twins, so rare that only 2 cases have ever been recorded, and then the most haunting ones, cases where a fetus grows inside its twin, or where twins have different fathers, or even twins born in different countries, cases that fascinated the public but burdened the families who lived them. Conjoined twins in particular have always faced the harshest spotlight. From Chang and Ng Bunker in the 1800s to the Hiltons, the McCoy sisters, the Gallian brothers, and the countless others who came after, their lives were often presented as curiosities rather than human experiences. Most of them never had the chance to protect their boundaries. Their stories were written for them, not by them. Abby and Brittany knew that if they did not hold firm control over their narrative, the world would write it for them, and write it wrong. And when Abby married Joshua, that fear came true. The internet didn't celebrate their happiness. It dissected it, questioned it, picked at it like it was a science experiment instead of a private love story. People debated the logistics, the mechanics, the appropriateness, ignoring the fact that these were 2 adult women capable of making their own decisions. Just because their circumstances were unusual didn't mean their emotions were any less real. This pressure, the weight of being studied, watched, and speculated about, was exactly why the twins needed privacy more than ever, and exactly why their mother's confirmation hurt them so deeply. But the story was not over. In many ways, it was only getting more complicated, a future filled with questions, distance, and unfinished emotions. As the truth about Abby's marriage settled into the public consciousness, the conversation around the twins shifted again. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know what came next. Would Brittany ever find a romantic partner of her own? How would their shared life adapt over time? Could their marriage evolve as the years went on? These questions poured across social media, talk shows, and online forums, often asked with curiosity, sometimes with cruelty, and almost always with an unsettling sense of entitlement. But the twins didn't address any of it. They stayed silent, not out of guilt, not out of fear, but because they had learned one of the hardest lessons any public figure